Hi, friends. Welcome again to another episode of Beyond the Clouds Edge to Edge Transformation. And as we have said before, transformation is this time really global and it's affecting everybody on earth. And among the people I got to know over the last decade or more was Martine. Martine has worked internationally with multiple communities, has used technology extensively. So we want to hear from her exactly how the newer technologies are affecting them and how it's making an impact around the world. Martine, tell us about you. How did you become the Martine that we got to know over the last few years?
Oh, that's a loaded question. And I think there are several layers to a response, right? And I don't even know how I got here. But I think it's a combination of experiences, what's inside of you, and what you want to bring out into the world. And then meeting the right people at the right time, but then also having that openness to be aware that you're meeting someone special or that a unique opportunity is presenting itself. And so it was quite a journey to get where I am. One of the things that really accelerated that journey was when we were moving from Belgium, my home country, my little hometown. And I followed my husband here to the United States, the Bay Area in 2001. That was actually the like a propeller. Like I had to be out of my comfort zone. I was out of my comfort zone. And I think it's on the fringes of your comfort zone that the biggest learning opportunities are. And so I there was no other choice, right? I could crawl under a rock and go back home, or I could fully embrace what was happening in my life, and just look at it as an opportunity to learn, to grow. And I just started doing a whole bunch of things that always interested me and never found maybe the time for, or didn't think that maybe it was appropriate to do for where I was in my life, or I didn't find the right people to work with. So I started exploring my faith more. I started exploring volunteering on a global scale. I really started looking inside, like, what is it that I really want to do? Like, what do I want my legacy to be? And over the years, one question that has really crystallized and that is helping me to focus is, when I'm on my deathbed looking back at my life, what are the things I'm going to regret? What are the opportunities that were presented and that I didn't recognize or ignored? And I just try to follow that. I don't know, is it a wise old woman inside of me? I don't know, but I try to follow that voice of this is the journey. But it's a never-ending learning experience for sure.
My wife Seema and I got to know you, Martine, when you were leading this amazing organization called Global Women's Leadership Network.
Yes.
And it was a joy to see the graduates of this network from literally around the world,
Exactly.
and beaming with joy, bringing abundance, whether it was bringing water to some remote places in Africa or it was bringing the internet. And could you relate some of these stories? How did you end up, first of all, at GWLN? And secondly, what was the impact of the work you were doing? And how were you able to do that from Silicon Valley, from San Francisco, work literally around the world?
Yes. So that's a great question. So again, I think it's a series of events that led up to me attending a graduation event in 2010. So I had just met a new friend, Mariana Ferron. She's originally from Costa Rica. She has a coffee brewing company here in Campbell. So we were just in the beginning phases of getting to know each other. And she one day reached out and said, there's an event at Santa Clara University, and I think you're going to like it. Do you want to come with me as my guest? I said, sure, right? So here I was attending the graduation event of what was then called the Global Leaders for Justice program, hosted by the law school at Santa Clara University. And there were, I don't remember, 15, 20 people from all over the world presenting their passionate commitment to a better world, whether it was water-related, economic opportunities. It was just all over. And so I met two people that immediately drew me in. Sabore from Kenya, a Maasai elder and community leader. And then there was Smrita from Destiny Reflection in Kolkata, India. For some reason, both of them really touched my heart. I was really, really in awe of what they were doing. They were not these loud speakers, or they were just very authentic about what was driving them, what was like pushing them forward, what was the change they wanted to see in their community, what was the wrong they wanted to right. For some reason, their message really spoke to me. And I thought then at that event, I need to be involved in this global women's leadership network, because these people are doing exactly what I want to do, like have a positive impact on the world. And so I kind of stalked the founder of GWLN, Lina Alpin, until I got a volunteering position, and then I got to learn more about it. I became program manager for the organization. And then it was like, how do you stay connected with global leaders, right? How do you stay connected with people around the world? And that is technology is the answer. First of all, to keep the connection going, but then secondly, I learned that technology is such a beautiful tool that can be used to really drive positive change forward in an amazingly quick, fast, smooth way. So for example, for Sabore, his vision when leaving the program was he was going to install 400 wells, because there's no access to safe drinking water. Women have to walk for hours. School kids have barely any access to drinking water, to fresh fruit and vegetables due to the lack of water. So 400 wells was Sabore's vision. I'm like, I'm going to help this guy. I'm going to help him do this. And so then you start connecting your network again. You start looking about who's in your network, who's doing what's the technology available, and how do we now bring it all together so it's for the greater good. I had never traveled anywhere by myself, and in 2016 I traveled to Kenya for the first time by myself. It was an amazing experience. I've been back 5 or 6 times now. I'm planning another trip in March. There's something about not just the project, about what you're doing, but I feel it's more about who you are doing it for. And you can really see the impact that you're making, the joy that you bring to people. It's co-creating opportunities for the next generation. Similar with Smrita in India. So she focuses more on human trafficking and slavery. She works in Calcutta. She works with women in the red light area. They are highly stigmatized. And even when you rescue them from that environment, it's the only job they know. It's the only community they know. So Smrita is providing employment opportunities. She's offering training, education, so that the women have alternatives as a way out of that economic insecurity. And now Smrita has added a layer using technology. She's going to be working now with youth at risk, the children of the women working in red light areas, for example, providing computer literacy, because it's a way of connecting with the world, but it's also what you need to know now if you want to have a job. So she's offering coding classes. It makes a huge difference in how you connect with the community and what opportunities you provide. So again, there it is technology that is bringing change. She has a sewing atelier where the women make all kinds of bags and scarves and using recycled sari materials. Well, how do we advertise that? How do we build a network using technology? We bring her products out of India, out of Calcutta, into the United States, into the UK, into the Netherlands. And so it is a fabulous way.
So, Martine, you've been working almost non-stop for more than a decade on these kinds of causes, literally around the world. In what way has your life changed as you've been working and you've been traveling and all that?
It is a deep gratitude for what I have. It's a deep, deep gratitude and a deep appreciation also for just the fact where I was born, the parents I had, the village I grew up, the community I had, the opportunities I had. At the time, they really seemed insignificant in the sense that in my reality, it was the same for everybody, right? So in that sense, it was nothing out of the norm. So in that sense, insignificant. Until you then meet people whose reality is completely different. And then you realize, oh my gosh, I have a lot to be thankful for. And I do have a richness and an abundance, not material stuff, but also abundance I feel in me. That has been a realization that has become clearer and clearer, that I truly believe that we are all connected to each other. We're not on this planet as single individuals. We are here as a community. And when I mean here, my here is maybe here San Jose, but my here is just as well in Kenya, and my here is just as well with you where you are now, Shankar, and my here is with Smrita. And so I feel we're all together, and it is my moral obligation, I feel, to extend the hand and to contribute to people that are not in my immediate circle, maybe, but for whom I can do something. This is my responsibility. This is my humanity. That's a concept or an awareness, maybe, that has become stronger and stronger the more I get to know about not just people in Africa and India, but I work here in the Bay Area with women who have a history of some kind of abuse, whether it's domestic violence or some kind of an addiction, single moms who, for whatever reason, got on the wrong train and are now looking to switch and get back on the right track. So when you really listen to the stories, it's easy to dismiss them as junkies or druggies, but when you listen, you find the humanity, and you find that not everybody is in control of the circumstances, and they're doing the best that they can within the circumstances. When the circumstances change, I feel we owe it to them to reach out and lend them a hand so that we can pull them with us into the right direction.
Martine, it's such an amazing thing that after coming from Belgium all the way to the San Francisco Bay Area, you realized that it's not just about the people of Belgium. It's not all waffles. There's a much larger world out there. And you started reaching out and using the internet, using email, using tools. You were able to expand your horizons not only in the Bay Area, but around the world. And now
Mhm.
I see that you're also doing something back home, Amici Lavaniensis. So tell us a little bit about that. It's like homecoming in some ways, isn't it?
It is in a lot of ways like coming home. So Amici Lovaniensis loosely translates to the Friends of Leuven. Leuven being a university city in Belgium, and it's my husband's alma mater. I think I've been doing this for maybe a decade. Again, it's about building bridges between the United States, Europe, the university, but also beyond. It's looking for what is happening, especially in the area of innovation, entrepreneurship, research, in a whole slew of areas. So what are today's challenges, and how can we address those using technology? And who are the movers and the shakers who are doing that special thing that everybody thinks like, this is crazy, right? And then how do we bring these people together through collaboration? You'll go further faster if your values and your focus areas are aligned. And that is kind of what I do with Amici Lovaniensis. So there's a lot of networking. There's a lot about learning who is doing what. And I like to know not necessarily the title that's on a business card of someone, but I like to know what makes that person get up in the morning, what is pushing them forward, and then capturing that energy and that motivation, and then thinking, okay, now I understand this. Now, how can I connect them with either a project or an individual that I know who's in the similar area, and how can we just move faster? Because there are so many issues today that need our attention. One of them that we as an organization now are focused on is neurodegeneration, brain diseases like ALS, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, dementia, just to name a few. There is so much happening in that space. I think at this moment, everybody is affected by neurodegeneration. If it's not yourself, then at least you have a relative, you know, someone who's been affected. I lived through this experience with my grandfather when he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. It was horrible, horrible in the 80s. So now, if I can contribute in some small way to pushing the research further, just by bringing a few people together who are really like inspired by this topic and want to find a solution, then I think I've done my job for Amici Lovaniensis. It goes further than that, of course, right? It's not just neurodegeneration. It's also about creating opportunities for students who want to explore the world and leave Belgium for a while and want to learn about what Silicon Valley is all about. And that's fascinating, of course, because those young minds, I love being surrounded by young people and hearing their ideas and their passion and their, you know, their drive. Yeah, so I love doing that as well. I'm hoping I can still do this work for Amici Lovaniensis for another, I don't know, maybe a decade.
And to people listening out there at the university that Martine is talking about, where Dr. Ivo, her husband, was there as a PhD student, they created this organization called IMEC, IMEC. In the US, we call it IMEC for some reason. But that's the one that has spearheaded research in semiconductor processes. And without that organization, you would not have the laptops you have or the phones you have in front of you, because this is the organization that's leading cooperative research and bringing new semiconductor processes, because of which we have these small, the phones and artificial intelligence, neural networks, everything. at the high end, and that's the magic of cooperation.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
you're dealing with so many different technologies now, especially in the thick of things, whether it's neurodegeneration or it's computer hardware processes and all that. Martine, I remember not too long ago when you were dating, you wondered what AI was. And now you're in the midst of all this. What is it like? How do you learn about these things? And how do you relate to all these technologies?
So yeah, so when Ivo and I started dating in the early 80s, Ivo's whole career or started on this premise of AI, artificial intelligence. Now, in the early 80s, this was like to me, I had never heard about this, right? So I would join him to conferences and meetings and things like that, and he would be talking about AI, and I remember people in the audience looking at each other and saying like, AI, what is he talking about, right? And I thought that's going to be my husband. He's talking about something. And Ivo had these really magnificent ideas and visions. And now we're here, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember him talking about this in the 80s, and look where we are now, right? So, not having a tech background myself, I just learned by osmosis, just being around engineers all the time. And I know this much maybe, but I think it's fascinating. For me, it really is fascinating to see that where he started in the 80s and what is happening now, and the promise of so much more, right, is out there. I think it's just beautiful. I just enjoy him. When we were watching him together, Shankar, last week at the event at Silicon Catalyst, right? I had so much fun because then the guy who's there at the panel talking about AI and the future, that is the guy I fell in love with in the 80s, right? And he's still there. It's still there. It's amazing. It's just fabulous. Yeah. But I can't talk about AI. I can talk about my husband and how wonderful he is and how smart and how visionary he's been. It's mind blowing.
Now you're literally working among hundreds of researchers
Mm,
at the university. Some of them are working on AI, some of them are working on process, some of them are working on neurodegeneration.
mm.
But that's not your background. How do you relate to them? How do you know what to promote, how to bring about the change, how to use that? Because a lot of people are phobic, they run away from engineers. You don't seem to run away from them, you actually
I
stay with
can't.
them.
I can't. No, because my husband is one, my son is one, so I can't run away from my family, right? And I often told Ivo, I said, if I were to do my life over again, I don't know if I would study to become an engineer. Maybe I would not go that far, but I would definitely be more interested or expand my horizon a little more. I think I would be more open-minded if I could do that. But to get back to your question, so what I like to do is in talking with people, I really like to understand what does whatever it is that you're doing, what does that mean to a person like me, right? But what is that for the average Joe? Like, how are you gonna changing life? How is that impacting life? So, what is it that you're doing? And so, I really try to get to the bottom of it. So, get all the science out of it or all the scientific words out of it. But what is it that you're doing, and what is the premise then? Once you do this, then what? Once I understand that, it's easy for me then to make connections and say, oh, okay, so if I understand correctly, you're doing X, Y, and Z. Well, then I know A, B, C, and D who are in a similar area. And maybe I think you guys need to sit together and see what the possibilities are. I don't think I need to understand the technology to know where it could be helpful or impactful or where collaboration is possible.
You're absolutely right. The most important quality is not the knowledge of the technology, it's the empathy. is the
Mhm.
connection, is the caring,
Yeah.
is listening. And thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I've always seen, especially these days when there's such a huge disruption in technology with generative AI, chat GPT, and all, it brings up a lot of fear. A lot of people are scared of job losses. They're scared that the world will come to an end or robots will control our lives. How can we help them? Because I don't believe the world is going to come to an end with robots or with AI. Yes, nuclear weapons are a little more dangerous, and still we survived. It's been
Yeah.
70 plus years since we've had nuclear weapons all around us, and we are still okay.
Mhm.
But how what's the right attitude, and how can we help people overcome the fear of technology and use it in a meaningful way?
Yeah. Well, I think you answered that in part by summarizing the previous session or part of our conversation. When we talk about empathy, I think empathy is, I believe, uh, human. I don't think robots, technology have empathy. And so that empathy factor is crucial in guiding the technology. Technology is only as good as what people put into it, right? Even with ChatGTP, like, yeah, it's fascinating. I hear, I don't use it, but it's only as good as what people are putting in it. And then you still have to make moral judgments about what to do with it now, right? It's not because Google said so that it can go. It's not because ChatGTP says so that it's good to go. So I think the empathy part is uniquely human, and that can never be replaced by a robot. I used to be afraid. I think about technology. I might have had similar perceptions about it's going to take over, job loss. We should be afraid. But I've learned if you're afraid of something, just face it and learn more about it. And because what is the fear actually? So explore what the fear is, learn as much as you can, embrace it and see how you would use it and what you would do, and then look at the people behind it. I always look at the people behind it, even with companies, right? I don't believe in companies, but I believe in the people who built the company. So in that, I not necessarily believe in technology, but I believe in the people who are building the technology. And so I think that's going to remain a constant. So the human aspect can never be taken over by technology. I don't think so. So no, don't be afraid. Just it's a journey, and I think it's important to stay informed and to learn. At least if you learn about it, you'll know it, and you can help steer it in the right direction. But
Honestly, that is the only approach. Everybody cannot start suddenly programming and fixing things, right?
Mhm.
Remember test tube babies and how much fear
Yeah.
that created when the
Mhm.
first test tube baby came into being? And today it's used for a really good cause when people have difficulty in having children. So, to people out there, it's always a joy to learn about how technology is affecting our lives. And I've seen it with my own eyes at the Global Women's Leadership Network, how the whole world came together, not for 1 year, but for dozens of years, and created leaders supporting each other. It wasn't one way, it was
Mhm.
everyone supporting everyone, whether it was in East Palo Alto or it was in some remote village in Nigeria or Kenya or India or in Europe. It was just the connectivity, and that was amazing.
Mhm.
And to have leaders like you who may not be the inventors of technology, who may not be the best in design, but embracing it in a
Mhm.
way that was wholesome. That is really remarkable.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing, and thank you for making the world a better place using technology. And I really appreciate what you said. is the people behind technology, it's the people behind companies, not technology in itself doesn't have a life of its own. So
Exactly.
thank you for reminding us.
You're welcome. Yeah, no, it's all about people. It's all about people,
And
always.
and to people listening, it is all about people. Many times we think is the cloud or the edge or the devices, but you and I are the ones using it. So we have a responsibility. So please come forward, tell us your stories. Let's learn from each other. I don't have a crystal ball. Nobody can predict 5 years, 10 years down the line how the world will be, but we can together co-create it. And therein lies the power of using technology in a responsible way. So please come forward. Thanks again, Martine, and may you support people from your hometown all the way to the rest of the world. And you have been doing it for the last couple of decades. All power to you.
Okay. Thank you, Shankar, for the opportunity to share. Yeah, I had a lot of fun talking with you.